All right, let's take a look at the carbon-oxygen cycle, which is really the relationship between photosynthesis and respiration. This is going to be a really simplified view that is ignoring all of the detailed aspects of photosynthesis and respiration, but it gives you a good introduction as to how it works. So first, let's write down where these things occur. Okay, so photosynthesis is going to be occurring in chloroplasts. All right, so we can call this photosynthesis. And this is going to be occurring in the chloroplasts of plant cells. And then the other process is respiration. And this is going to be occurring in either the mitochondria or it could be occurring in the cytoplasm of any type of cell, plant cells, animal cells, fungi cells. Any living thing is going to have to carry out cellular respiration. Okay, so these two processes are related to each other because what one produces, the other one needs. And you may remember from your other classes that you've taken in elementary school science or et cetera. Whoa, sorry about that. Whoa, sorry about that. That these two things are related. And what photosynthesis produces that respiration needs is photosynthesis produces oxygen, and it also produces glucose. Okay, so this is oxygen, and that's glucose. Which is a sugar. All right, and what respiration produces that photosynthesis needs is carbon dioxide gas and also water. Okay, and so the reason this is called the carbon-oxygen cycle is because, as you can see, you have carbon and oxygen being cycled around back and forth between these two processes. So I'm just going to write down carbon dioxide over here. And water. It's worth mentioning that plants are going to absorb carbon dioxide from the air, and they're going to absorb water from their environment, either from the roots if they're a terrestrial plant, a land plant, or they'll absorb it from the water if they're a water plant, either marine or freshwater. Okay, and again, respiration occurs in all living things. So the next thing to add on to this cycle is a shortcut. Okay, and the shortcut is going to convert the oxygen and sugars, or whatever the products of the sugars are, because sometimes they're built into other things, directly across into carbon dioxide and water, and that is combustion. And that happens anytime that we burn something. So instead of having a life process cycle these things around, we can take a living thing or a previously living thing, such as a tree or a coal, and we can burn it, and it converts the carbon and oxygen and hydrogen in that into carbon dioxide and water that goes right into the atmosphere. So the purpose of all these things in the carbon-oxygen cycle, let me write that up here, is to carry energy. And the energy that plants have originally comes from the sun. That's kind of sketchy, sorry. Okay, and the sun gives its energy to these plants. The energy is captured by the chloroplast. Okay, and here's what the amazing thing is that the energy through photosynthesis is actually turned into the bonds of glucose. It's the bonds that hold those atoms together. Okay, and then cellular respiration takes that energy and it releases it. Okay, and it releases it to metabolism. But there's another hidden cycle that happens here. When you do respiration in your cells to release the energy from sugars into life processes, it doesn't go directly to life processes. There's another miniature cycle in here, okay? And this is the ATP, ADP cycle, all right? So what we have is ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate, plus an extra P, which is another phosphate. And the ADP takes the energy from the sugars from respiration, and it converts it into ATP. Okay, and so we have a cycle here. Just to draw this so you have an idea what it looks like. Here's our A for adenosine, and then you can have some phosphates attached to it. This is ADP. And then if you're going to do ATP, this extra phosphate would join on here. So you'd have ATP, adenosine triphosphate, meaning 3 phosphates. Okay. And when ATP breaks down into ADP, the energy is given off to all the life processes. And we call these life processes metabolism. Okay. So one of the key concepts is that you'll notice that our materials, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, ADP and ATP, are cycled. They're used over and over and over. They've been used over and over and over for as long as there's life on Earth. But the energy is not. The energy comes from the sun. It goes to the glucose. And then from the glucose, it goes down to respiration, down to the ADP, and then is eventually given off as metabolism. So this is a kind of an overview of the carbon-oxygen cycle. And one of the things that's so cool about it is that you can take from the cycle and you can get the equations for photosynthesis and respiration from the cycle. So the equation for respiration is oxygen and C6H12O6 through respiration are converted into H2O and CO2. And to have a balanced equation, we should probably add a 6 here and a 6 here and a 6 here. And that's going to give us equal numbers of carbons, oxygens, and hydrogens on each end of that equation. So I'm just going to scroll down here and write the equation for respiration. Okay, so you start out with glucose plus oxygen, and that's converted into water, carbon dioxide, and if it's aerobic in the presence of oxygen, like we said, you're going to get 36 ATP molecules from that. Right? And we can also get the equation for photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is just the top half of this, where you're taking your carbon dioxide and water through photosynthesis. Let me highlight it for you. So again, we're getting our carbon dioxide and water through photosynthesis. We're turning it back into the oxygen and glucose. So now we can write down our equation for photosynthesis down here. And that's going to be the exact opposite of respiration. We're going to have our 6H2O plus 6CO2. And that's going to be converted into, in the presence of sunlight, that's going to be converted into your glucose plus oxygen gas. That's kind of a summary of these two processes, photosynthesis and respiration, and how they interact with each other to do two things: carry out the carbon-oxygen cycle, which cycles carbon and oxygen in the atmosphere and through life, and also how they deliver energy from the sun into living things to carry out life processes. Hope that helps.